I stood at the entrance of the Grand Meridian Hotel, my heart pounding as my sister Amanda physically blocked the glass doors with her body, laughing so hard she could barely speak. She told me I could not afford to enter such a luxury establishment. My mother Patricia stepped beside her, leaning close to whisper harshly that I should not embarrass the family by pretending I belonged there. I stood silently as other guests stared, their eyes filled with pity and confusion. Amanda mocked my simple clothing, my plain jacket and jeans. Mother mentioned how my older brother Marcus had already paid for everything. Then my security chief Derek approached the entrance in full uniform, speaking into his radio. The evening air felt cold against my face, but not as cold as the way my own family looked at me. Standing there, I thought about the last 8 years of my life, every sacrifice and every sleepless night that had led to this moment. I was 23 when I started working 3 jobs to support my dream of building something in the hospitality industry. Back then, I worked the night desk at a budget motel from 11 at night until 7 in the morning. Then I would grab 2 hours of sleep in my car before heading to my afternoon shift as a restaurant server from 10 until 4. On weekends, I cleaned office buildings. I was exhausted every single day, but I had a vision of what I could become. My family never understood. My mother came from old money that her father had lost when his manufacturing business collapsed during the recession. She spent every day of her life obsessed with status, with appearing successful, with making sure everyone knew the family name still meant something. To her, my decision to work in hotels was shameful. She would tell her friends I was still figuring things out, still finding my path, as if I were lost instead of building something real. Marcus, my older brother, became a corporate lawyer. He went to a top law school, joined a prestigious firm, and made the kind of money that impressed our mother. She would brag about him constantly, showing everyone pictures of him in his expensive suits, talking about his important cases. Amanda married a real estate developer when she was 24. Her husband came from wealth, owned properties across 3 states, and gave our mother exactly what she wanted, the appearance of success. Then there was me, the youngest, the one who worked with his hands, who scrubbed floors and checked in drunk guests at 3 in the morning, the one who embarrassed them. My father, Robert, was different, quieter. He never defended me when Mother made her cutting remarks at family dinners, never spoke up when Marcus would joke about my dead-end career. But sometimes, late at night when I would stop by their house to drop something off, I would catch him looking at me with something in his eyes. Sadness, maybe, or regret. I was never sure. I worked my way up from that night desk position to assistant manager at a small hotel chain. It took 3 years of proving myself, of taking every extra shift, of learning every aspect of the business, from housekeeping to accounting. I studied hospitality management through online courses, spending my lunch breaks watching lectures on my phone. 5 years ago, I took the biggest risk of my life. I had saved $47,000, barely sleeping and eating rice and beans for months to put away every penny I could. I found an investor, a retired hotel executive named George, who saw something in my pitch. Together, we bought a struggling boutique hotel in a secondary market 2 hours outside the city. The place was falling apart, losing money every month, but I saw its potential. I moved into a storage room in that hotel. I worked 18-hour days, fixing broken pipes myself, repainting rooms, training staff, rebuilding the brand from nothing. I changed everything about how the place operated, focusing on personal service and attention to detail that the big chains could not match. Within 18 months, we were profitable. Within 2 years, we were thriving. I used those profits to acquire a second property, then a third. Each time, I lived in the building, worked every position, learned every detail. My investment partner, George, taught me about leveraging success, about building a portfolio, about thinking bigger. He became more of a father to me than my own dad had been in years. 2 years ago, the Grand Meridian Hotel went up for sale. It was the crown jewel of my hometown, a historic building that had fallen into disrepair under mismanagement. The asking price was steep, but I had built enough equity and reputation to secure the financing. I bought it, renovated it, and transformed it into the most sought-after venue in the city, and I never told my family. I wanted to wait for the right moment. Part of me hoped that one day they would see what I had built and finally understand. Maybe they would be proud. Maybe they would realize I had not been wasting my life. Maybe they would actually ask me about my work instead of changing the subject every time I tried to share. But they never asked. In 8 years, my mother called me only when she needed something, usually wanting me to help Marcus move furniture or asking if I could lend Amanda money. They never visited, never showed interest. I was the family embarrassment they tried to forget. 6 months ago, I hired Derek as head of security. He was a former Marine, built like a wall, with a calm professionalism that made everyone feel safe. He ran a tight operation, trained his team well, and quickly became someone I trusted completely. Tonight was supposed to be perfect. My father was turning 60. I had planned this dinner for weeks, secretly hoping it would be the moment I could finally bridge the gap with my family. I imagined my father's face when he realized his youngest son owned the finest hotel in the city. I imagined maybe, finally, earning a moment of respect. Instead, I got this. My sister blocking the door, laughing at me. My mother telling me I was an embarrassment. Derek approached the entrance, and I saw him take in the situation immediately. His eyes met mine, questioning. I gave him a slight nod. He spoke into his radio, his voice carrying authority. Within 30 seconds, the hotel's entire management team emerged from the lobby. Susan Bradford, my general manager, appeared first, her professional demeanor firmly in place. Behind her came the director of operations, the head concierge, the executive chef, and 3 department heads. They lined up at the entrance, and Susan spoke clearly, her voice projecting across the driveway where other guests were still watching. She addressed me directly. "Good evening, Mr. Hayes, sir. We have your father's private dining room prepared exactly to your specifications. Welcome home." I watched my sister's face drain of color. Her hand dropped from the door. My mother's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then Marcus appeared from inside the hotel, walking through the glass doors with that familiar smirk on his face. He was wearing a $5,000 suit, his hair perfectly styled, looking every bit the successful lawyer our mother adored. He glanced at the assembled staff, then at me, and laughed. "Nice try, Bill," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "We all know you probably bribed these people for a prank. Dad's waiting inside, and you are making us look ridiculous." The satisfaction I had felt for one brief moment evaporated. Even confronted with the truth, they could not accept it. They would rather believe I had orchestrated an elaborate deception than admit I had succeeded. I maintained my composure, straightening my shoulders. I looked at Susan and nodded. She understood immediately. "Please, everyone, come inside," I said, my voice steady despite the anger building in my chest. "Let's not keep Dad waiting." We walked through the lobby, and I noticed every detail, as if seeing it for the first time. The Italian marble floors I had personally selected, the crystal chandeliers I had restored, the art collection I had carefully curated. Every element of this space represented hours of work, decisions made, risks taken, and my family walked through it seeing nothing. Staff members greeted me as we passed. Thomas, the head concierge, nodded respectfully. "Good evening, Mr. Hayes." Catherine, one of our senior housekeepers, smiled warmly. "Welcome, sir." Even guests who recognized me from previous visits offered polite acknowledgement, but Marcus kept up his running commentary, stage whispering to Amanda. He must have paid them all off. This is pathetic, even for Bill. Amanda looked less certain now, her eyes darting between the staff and me, but she said nothing to contradict her older brother. We reached the private dining room on the 2nd floor. It was one of my favorite spaces in the entire hotel, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, dark wood paneling, and a table that could seat 12 comfortably. Tonight, it was set for 5 with our finest china and crystal. My father sat alone at the head of the table. He looked older than I remembered, his hair thinner, his shoulders slightly hunched. He was 60 today, but he could have passed for 70. Life with my mother had aged him. I approached him with genuine warmth. "Happy birthday, Dad." He glanced up at me briefly, then looked past me toward the door. "Where is Marcus's wife? Is she coming?" The words hit me like a physical blow. Not thank you. Not, I'm glad you're here. Just a question about someone else. Someone who mattered more. She had a work event, Marcus answered, sliding into the seat at my father's right hand, the position of honor. But she sent her regards. We all took our seats. I ended up at the far end of the table, the farthest point from my father. Amanda sat beside Mother, who had composed herself enough to look imperious again, her chin raised, her eyes cold. A server brought menus, and I watched my family order without looking at the prices. Marcus selected the $48 steak. Amanda chose the lobster risotto at $52. Mother ordered the special tasting menu at $85 per person. My father, always the most modest, asked for the salmon. The conversation began, and I might as well have been invisible. Marcus launched into a detailed story about his recent promotion to junior partner at his firm. $400,000 a year base salary, he said, making sure everyone heard, plus performance bonuses that could push it past $600,000. The senior partners told me I'm on track for full equity partner within 3 years. My mother beamed. We are so proud of you, Marcus. All that hard work paying off. Amanda shared updates about her husband's latest acquisition, a commercial property downtown that would be converted into luxury condos. The projected returns are in the millions, she said. We're thinking about buying a vacation home in Aspen. Mother nodded approvingly. You have built such a wonderful life, dear. I tried to enter the conversation. I have been working on an interesting expansion project myself. We're looking at acquiring a historic property that could become something really special for the community. Marcus cut me off. That reminds me, Dad. Did I tell you about the pro bono case I took, helping a nonprofit with their legal structure? Very rewarding work. The conversation moved on as if I had not spoken. My mother turned her attention to me, her voice taking on that particular tone she used when she wanted to cut without seeming openly cruel. Bill, are you still living in that tiny apartment? The one with the broken air conditioning? I had not lived in that apartment for 4 years, but she would not know that because she had never asked. I have a different living situation now, I said carefully. Oh? Did you finally get a roommate? That would help with expenses, I imagine. She smiled, and it looked like concern, but I knew better. Have you found a real career yet? Amanda asked, and there was something almost pitying in her voice. I know someone whose cousin manages a hotel chain. Maybe I could put in a word for you, get you an interview for a management position. When will you stop embarrassing us? Mother added, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You are 31 years old, Bill. At some point, you need to accept reality and find stable work. I felt something crack inside my chest. 8 years. 8 years of building, creating, succeeding, and they saw nothing. They knew nothing, because they had never cared enough to ask. A server approached with a bottle of wine, one of our rarest vintages. He presented it to the table with a slight bow. Compliments of the owner, Mr. Hayes, a 2008 Bordeaux from our private collection. I had not ordered it, but I knew Susan must have arranged it, trying to help. Marcus laughed, actually laughed out loud. Right, of course. Bill, you told them to do this, did you not? To impress us? He turned to the server. Nice performance, but we all know the truth here. The server looked confused, glancing at me. I gave him a slight nod, and he poured the wine before retreating. The dinner continued in this vein. Every accomplishment shared by Marcus or Amanda was celebrated. Every attempt I made to contribute was ignored or dismissed. My father said almost nothing, eating slowly, looking tired and distant. Then Susan appeared in the doorway. She was carrying a tablet, and I could see she was trying to be professional despite the awkward family dynamics she must have sensed. She approached me directly, and I knew what was coming. We had a deal closing tomorrow, and I needed to review the final documents tonight. I apologize for interrupting your dinner, Mr. Hayes, she said, her voice clear and formal, but I need your signature on these urgent documents. The acquisition of the Riverside property closes tomorrow morning, and the seller's attorney needs these by midnight tonight. She laid the tablet on the table in front of me, and I could see the documents clearly displayed. The purchase price was right there at the top. $7 million, $200,000, Susan continued, seemingly oblivious to the stunned silence that had fallen over the table. As owner and CEO of Apex Hospitality Group, you'll need to review the final terms and authorize the wire transfer. I looked up from the tablet at my family. Marcus had gone completely still, his wine glass frozen halfway to his lips. Amanda's fork had clattered against her plate, a piece of lobster falling onto the white tablecloth. My mother's face had flushed a deep red, her mouth opening and closing without sound. My father was staring at me, really looking at me for the first time in years. I signed the documents quickly, my hand steady despite my racing heart. Susan thanked me and left. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is unbelievable," he said, his voice tight with anger. "You orchestrated this whole thing just to show off, to rub our noses in it. You are unbelievable, Bill." He threw his napkin on the table and stormed out of the dining room. I excused myself and followed Marcus, leaving my stunned family at the table. I found him in the hotel bar, one floor down, already ordering whiskey from the bartender. His face was red, and I could see his hands shaking as he loosened his tie. The bar was quiet at this hour, just a few guests scattered at tables, soft jazz playing in the background. I approached Marcus slowly, trying to find the right words. "Marcus, can we talk?" He spun on his bar stool, his eyes blazing. "Talk? About what, Bill? About how you humiliated me up there? About how you set up this whole elaborate show to make me look like a fool?" "That was not what this was," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "I wanted Dad's birthday to be special. I wanted to finally share what I have built with the family. I did not expect you to react like this." "Did not expect?" Marcus laughed bitterly. The bartender set down his whiskey, and Marcus downed half of it in one gulp. "You own this hotel. You own multiple hotels. You are the CEO of a hospitality group, and you never told us. Not once. What were we supposed to think?" I slid onto the stool beside him. "You never asked. In 8 years, not one of you asked me about my work. Not one of you visited or showed any interest in my life. Because you were a night clerk at a cheap motel," Marcus shot back. "What were we supposed to ask about? How your evening was checking in truckers and cleaning up after drunks. That was one job," I said quietly. "It was where I started, not where I stayed. But you would know that if you had ever bothered to call me for any reason other than asking for a favor." Marcus stared into his glass, and something in his expression shifted. The anger seemed to deflate, replaced by something else, something that looked almost like pain. "You want to know why I am angry?" His voice was quieter now, stripped of its earlier hostility. "Fine, I will tell you." He ordered another whiskey, and then he started talking. Really talking, maybe for the first time in our adult lives. "I have $200,000 in student loan debt from law school. My partnership is not what Mother thinks it is. I am barely hanging on, Bill. I miss my billable hour targets almost every month. The senior partners have me on a performance improvement plan, which is just a nice way of saying I am one bad quarter away from being fired." I stared at him, genuinely shocked. My marriage is falling apart. Sarah wants a divorce. She thought she was marrying a successful lawyer, and instead she got a guy who works 70 hours a week and still cannot pay the bills. We are living in an apartment we cannot afford, driving cars that are leased at rates that are destroying us, all to maintain the image Mother expects. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I have been secretly borrowing money from Mom and Dad for 2 years. 20,000 here, 15,000 there. Dad keeps giving it to me, never asking questions, just quietly transferring money into my account. Do you know what that feels like? To be 33 years old and still depending on your parents?" I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, I saw my brother not as the golden child, not as the favored son, but as someone struggling under the same impossible expectations I had fled. "Marcus, I had no idea. Why did you not say something?" "To who? Mother? She would tell me to work harder, to be more like the success she imagines I am. Dad? He barely speaks. Amanda? She is drowning in her own perfect life." He turned to me, and there was something raw in his eyes. "And you? You were the failure, Bill. You were the one I could feel superior to. That was my consolation prize for everything else falling apart." For a moment, I felt genuine empathy for my brother. We had both been casualties of our mother's obsession with status, just in different ways. "Let me help you," I said. "I can give you a position at Apex Hospitality, legal affairs, contract negotiations. You would be good at it, and the pay would be solid. Or I could just help you financially. No judgment, no strings. We are brothers." Marcus looked at me, and I saw something soften in his face. "You would do that? After everything?" "Yes," I said simply. "Family should help each other. Real family, anyway." For several heartbeats, I thought we had turned a corner. I thought maybe this disaster of an evening could become something else, something better. Then Marcus's expression changed. The softness disappeared, replaced by something cruel and calculating. "You know what your problem is, Bill? You think money fixes everything. You think because you bought some hotels and made some cash, you can just swoop in and save everyone." His voice was rising again, drawing looks from other patrons. "But you do not get it. You were not there. Not where. 3 months ago, Dad had a heart attack. Mild but scary. He was in the hospital for 4 days. The world seemed to tilt. What? Dad had a heart attack? The family decided not to tell you." Marcus's voice was cold now, precise, each word chosen to inflict maximum damage. "Mom convinced Dad that you were too busy with your little projects to care. That calling you would just be a burden. Dad asked about you, you know. From his hospital bed, he asked if someone had called his youngest son, and Mom told him she had. Told him you said you could not make it because of work." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "She lied?" "She lied," Marcus confirmed. "And I let her. We all let her. Because you were never really part of the family anyway, were you? You were always separate, always off doing your own thing. So we made the decision without you." "You had no right," I said, my voice shaking with rage and hurt. "Maybe not," Marcus agreed. "But that is reality, Bill. You missed your chance to be there when it actually mattered. All your money, all your hotels, all your success. It does not change the fact that when Dad needed his family, you were not there because we did not think you were worth calling." Before I could respond, before I could process what he had just told me, Amanda came rushing into the bar. Her face was panicked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Marcus, Bill, come quick." She was struggling to breathe, gasping between words. "It is Dad." He collapsed. In the dining room. He just fell out of his chair. I was moving before I finished processing her words. I sprinted toward the stairs, taking them 3 at a time, my heart hammering in my chest. Behind me, I heard Marcus and Amanda following. I burst back into the dining room to find my father on the floor, my mother kneeling beside him, screaming his name. Other diners had backed away, and one man was on his phone calling 911. I immediately called Derek on my radio. "Medical emergency, private dining room 2. Get the hotel doctor here now, and call Dr. Richardson. Tell him it is an emergency. I need him here in 10 minutes. Dr. Richardson was my personal physician, a cardiologist who lived 15 minutes from the hotel. He had been a guest here dozens of times, and we had become friends. I trusted him completely. The hotel doctor, Dr. Singh, arrived within 90 seconds. He was checking my father's pulse, asking him questions. Dad was conscious but confused, his skin pale and clammy. "Possible cardiac event," Dr. Singh said calmly. "We need paramedics." They were already on the way. I knelt beside my father, taking his hand. "Dad, stay with me. Help is coming." His eyes focused on my face, and he squeezed my hand weakly. Then my mother was there, shoving me away from him physically. "Get away from him," she screamed. "This is your fault. All of this. You and your show-off display of wealth. Your need to prove something. You stressed him out. You did this." Her words echoed through the dining room. Other guests were staring. Amanda was crying. Marcus stood frozen in the doorway. "Mrs. Hayes, Please step back and let the doctor work, Dr. Singh said firmly. The paramedics arrived, a team of 4 moving with practiced efficiency. They had my father on a gurney within minutes, checking his vitals, asking questions. His blood pressure was elevated, his heart rate irregular. We are taking him to Mercy General, the lead paramedic said. It is the closest cardiac center. As they wheeled him toward the elevator, my father reached out and caught my hand. He pulled me close, his voice barely a whisper. Son, he said, I am sorry. Then they were taking him away, and I was left standing in the dining room surrounded by destruction. I drove to Mercy General in a daze, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Marcus's words kept echoing in my head. 3 months ago. A heart attack. They did not call me. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty at this hour. I found a spot near the emergency entrance and ran inside. The waiting room was stark and cold, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of antiseptic heavy in the air. My mother sat in a chair against the far wall, Amanda beside her offering comfort. Marcus sat apart from them, staring at his phone. None of them looked at me when I entered. I approached the registration desk. The nurse recognized me from previous visits. I had donated significantly to the hospital's cardiac wing last year, and my name was on a plaque in the main lobby. Mr. Hayes, she said kindly, they took your father straight back. A doctor will be out shortly with an update. Thank you. I tried to sit near my family, but when I approached, my mother turned her back to me, a gesture so deliberate and cold it stopped me in my tracks. So I sat on the opposite side of the waiting room, alone. 2 hours passed, then 3. A few other families came and went, emergencies resolved or hearts broken. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, then 1 in the morning. Finally, a doctor emerged through the double doors. She was young, probably in her early 30s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Family of Robert Hayes? We all stood. I am Dr. Ellen Brooks. Your father is stable. She paused, and I saw her carefully choose her next words. This was not a heart attack. What Mr. Hayes experienced was a severe panic attack, complicated by extremely elevated blood pressure and stress. His heart is actually in good condition, considering his age and medical history. A panic attack? My mother's voice was sharp with disbelief. Robert does not have panic attacks. Acute stress can trigger these episodes, especially when there is underlying emotional distress, Dr. Brooks explained. We have given him medication to help him calm down and regulate his blood pressure. He is resting now, but he is asking to see someone. He is specifically asking for Bill. Just Bill. Alone. My mother stood abruptly. Absolutely not. I am his wife. I go in first. Dr. Brooks held up a hand. Mrs. Hayes, I understand, but the patient was very clear. He said only Bill, and he became quite agitated when we tried to suggest his wife come in. For his health, we need to honor his wishes right now. This is absurd, my mother sputtered. Bill caused this. Bill is the reason Robert is in this hospital. Dr. Brooks looked at me. Are you Bill? Yes, ma'am. Please follow me. I walked past my mother, past Amanda's shocked expression, past Marcus, who would not meet my eyes. The hallway smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. We passed several rooms before Dr. Brooks stopped at a door and gestured for me to enter. My father lay in the hospital bed, propped up slightly, an IV in his arm and monitors beeping quietly beside him. He looked small and fragile in the harsh light, nothing like the man I remembered from my childhood. I pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Dad? His eyes opened, and they were clearer now, focused. He reached for my hand, and I took it. Bill, he said, his voice rough but steady, I need to tell you everything. Before it is too late. You are going to be fine, I said. The doctor said your heart is okay. My heart, he repeated, and a sad smile crossed his face. My heart has been broken for 8 years, son. I just did not have the courage to admit it. For the next hour, my father talked. Really talked, perhaps for the first time in my adult life. And what he told me shattered everything I thought I understood about my family. He told me that he had always known I would succeed, that from the time I was a teenager, He had seen my determination, my work ethic, my integrity. He had been proud of me even when I was working those 3 jobs, proud of my refusal to take shortcuts or compromise my values. But my mother had convinced him that supporting me would enable me to waste my life. She had come from wealth, old family money that her father had lost when his manufacturing business collapsed during the financial crisis. She had spent her entire adult life terrified of being poor, obsessed with status and appearance, desperate to prove that the family name still meant something. She saw my choice to work in hospitality as shameful. A Hayes working in hotels, cleaning rooms, checking in guests. It was beneath us, she said. It was embarrassing. If Robert supported me, he would be condoning my failure. So he stayed silent. He let her belittle me at family dinners. He let Marcus and Amanda treat me like the family disappointment. He kept the peace in his marriage by sacrificing his relationship with his youngest son. "I am a coward, Bill," he said, and tears ran down his weathered cheeks. "I chose comfort over courage. I chose your mother's approval over your well-being, and I lost you because of it." But he told me something else, something that made my chest tighten with emotion. He had followed my career. He had newspaper clippings of every article written about my hotel acquisitions, saved in a folder hidden in his office. He had visited my hotels anonymously, checking in under false names, just to see what I had built. He had been proud, silently and uselessly proud, but too afraid to tell me. 6 months ago, when I bought the Grand Meridian, he had seen the public business filings. He knew. He had specifically requested his birthday dinner be held here, hoping it would force the family to finally see my success. But he had not had the courage to tell them beforehand, to prepare them, to stand up to Patricia's inevitable reaction. "I wanted tonight to be the moment everything changed," he said. "I wanted them to see you, really see you, and realize what they had been missing. But I should have told them myself. I should have stood up for you years ago." He apologized, over and over, his voice breaking. And despite everything, despite 8 years of silence and hurt, I forgave him, because I understood what it was like to live under Patricia's shadow, to be shaped by her need for control. We held each other, father and son, and cried together for all the lost years. Then the door burst open. My mother stood there with a hospital administrator, a nervous-looking man in his 50s clutching a clipboard. "I demand you remove this man from my husband's room immediately," my mother said, her voice shaking with rage. "He is upsetting the patient. I am the wife, and I am in charge of all medical decisions." The administrator looked uncomfortable. "Mrs. Hayes has indicated she may pursue legal action if we do not comply with her wishes." My father sat up straighter in bed, and I saw steel enter his eyes. His voice, when he spoke, was stronger than it had been all evening. "Sir," he addressed the administrator directly, "my wife is not in charge of my medical decisions. I am a mentally competent adult, and I am making my wishes clear right now. I want Bill here. In fact, I want to change my emergency contact and healthcare proxy immediately. I want my son Bill to have full authority over my medical care. Do you have the paperwork for that?" The administrator blinked, surprised. "Yes, sir. If you are certain." "I am absolutely certain," my mother gasped. "Robert, you have lost your mind. You cannot do this. Bill has manipulated you, turned you against your own family." "No, Patricia," my father said calmly. "Bill has done nothing but succeed despite everything we did to hold him back, and I am done being a coward." The administrator left to get the forms. When he returned, my father signed them with a steady hand, changing his emergency contact from Patricia to me, granting me full medical power of attorney. My mother stared at the documents, as if they were a physical wound. "You are making the biggest mistake of your life, Robert. This family is done. You hear me? Done." She turned and stormed out of the room, her heels clicking sharply against the linoleum floor. I heard her voice in the hallway, shrill and furious, but I could not make out the words. My father squeezed my hand. "She is going to make this difficult, son. You need to be ready." I was not sure I could be ready for what was coming. But sitting there with my father, finally having his support after so many years without it, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. My father remained in the hospital for 2 more days under observation. His blood pressure stabilized, and the panic attacks did not return. I stayed with him almost constantly, sleeping in the chair beside his bed, eating hospital cafeteria food, and talking about everything we had missed in 8 years. My mother did not return. Not once. She was staying with Amanda, and according to the angry text messages I received from my sister, she was absolutely furious. Marcus visited once on the 2nd day, standing awkwardly at the foot of the bed for 10 minutes before making an excuse and leaving. He did not apologize for what he had told me at the bar, and I did not bring it up. During those long hours, I learned more about my father's life than I had known in 31 years. He told me about his own dreams, the ones he had abandoned when Patricia got pregnant with Marcus and they got married quickly and quietly. He had wanted to start a small business, maybe a bookstore or a cafe, something with books and coffee and conversation. Instead, Patricia demanded security, stability, respectability. So he became an accountant for a firm downtown and spent 40 years at a job that slowly drained the life from him. His only joy in recent years had been following my career from afar. He showed me the folder he kept, the one Patricia did not know about. Newspaper clippings, printed articles from business websites, photos of my hotels. He had documented my entire journey, proud but silent. "Why did you not just tell me?" I asked on the 2nd night, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you not call me, write to me, anything?" He looked at me with eyes full of regret. "Because I was afraid. Afraid Patricia would make my life unbearable. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of losing what little peace we had in the house. I told myself I was keeping the family together, but really I was just taking the cowardly way out." He paused. "I convinced myself that you would understand someday, that you would figure out I loved you even if I never said it. But that was not fair to you. Silence is not love, Bill. It is just silence." On the 3rd day, as we were preparing for his discharge, a hospital volunteer delivered a certified letter addressed to me. The return address was a law firm downtown, Marcus's firm. My hands shook as I opened it. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was clear. Patricia had filed for legal separation from Robert, citing irreconcilable differences. She was demanding half of all marital assets, including the house, their savings, his retirement accounts. The letter also included a separate document, a personal statement from Patricia that was not technically part of the legal filing but had been included anyway. I read it and felt sick. She accused me of elder abuse, of manipulating a sick and confused man. She claimed I had used my wealth to drive a wedge between Robert and his family. She said I was dangerous, unstable, and motivated purely by revenge for imagined slights from childhood. The language was vicious, personal, designed to hurt. But there was something else in the envelope. A formal letter from Marcus's law firm indicating that he had recused himself from the case due to conflict of interest, but that his partners would be representing Patricia in the divorce proceedings. At the bottom, in what looked like Marcus's handwriting, was a short note. "I am sorry it came to this." I showed the documents to my father. He read them slowly, his expression hardening with each paragraph. "She is not getting half," he said quietly. "Not after what she did to you, to us. I will fight this. Dad, you should not have to choose between your marriage and your relationship with me. I am not choosing, Bill. She already made the choice years ago when she decided one son was worth loving and another was not." He handed the papers back to me. "I should have left her a long time ago. I stayed for all the wrong reasons. And look what it cost us." That afternoon, Amanda called me. She was crying, almost incomprehensible. "Bill, I do not know what to believe anymore," she sobbed. "Mom is saying all these things about you, about how you have brainwashed Dad, how you are tearing the family apart. But I was there that night. I saw the staff. I saw the contracts. And I cannot stop thinking about how Mom talks about you when you are not around. What does she say? Terrible things. She has always said terrible things. I just never thought about it before, never really listened. She made it seem normal to mock you, to dismiss everything you did, and I went along with it." Her voice broke. "I am so sorry, Bill. I am so sorry." We talked for over an hour. Amanda told me things I had suspected but never confirmed. How Patricia had forced her to marry her husband, threatening to disown her if she did not. How Amanda had been in love with someone else, a teacher, but Patricia had called him unsuitable because he did not make enough money. How Amanda's entire life was a performance designed to please our mother, and how exhausting and empty it felt. "I do not even love my husband," she admitted. "I respect him, but I do not love him. I have not loved him for years, and he knows it. Our marriage is just for show." "Then leave," I said simply. "You do not have to live like this. I do not have anywhere to go. I do not have my own money, Bill. Everything is in his name. If I leave, I have nothing." "You have me," I said. "You can stay at the hotel while you figure things out. I will help you." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Really, after how I treated you, you are my sister. Family is supposed to help each other. The question is whether you want that help." She said yes. 2 days later, I got a call from Derek. He needed to see me immediately, and his tone suggested it was serious. I met him in my office at the hotel, and he closed the door behind us. "We have a problem," he said, opening his laptop. "I was reviewing security footage from the night of your father's birthday, just routine checking. I found something you need to see." He turned the screen toward me. The footage showed the hotel lobby from earlier that evening, before I had arrived. The timestamp read 5:47 in the afternoon. My mother and Marcus entered the frame, and they were meeting with a man I did not recognize. He was mid-40s, wearing casual business attire, carrying a leather messenger bag. They talked for several minutes. The man took photographs of the lobby with a professional camera. He handed documents to my mother, who reviewed them and nodded. Marcus shook the man's hand. "I had our team identify him," Derek said. "His name is Craig Morrison. He is a private investigator, specializes in asset investigations and surveillance." My stomach dropped. "How long has he been following me?" Derek pulled up more footage, this time from various locations around the city over the past 3 weeks. Morrison following me to the gym, Morrison photographing me at a restaurant, Morrison taking pictures of my car, my office building, even the small apartment I kept for nights when I worked late at the hotel. "Your mother hired him weeks ago," Derek said. "She has been building a file on you. I do not know what she is planning, but this goes beyond a divorce case." Before I could process this, Derek's phone rang. He answered, listened for a moment, and his expression changed to one of alarm. "We need to go. Now. It is your father." He took a turn at the hospital. We raced to Mercy General, my mind spinning with fear. I ran through the emergency entrance, not bothering to check in at the desk, heading straight for the cardiac wing. I found my father's room, and a nurse stopped me at the door. "Mr. Hayes, your father is okay, but he has developed an infection at his IV site. It spread quickly, and he spiked a fever. The doctors have it under control now, but he was asking for you." He seemed very frightened. I entered the room to find my father awake but clearly weak, his skin pale and clammy. When he saw me, relief flooded his face. "Bill," he said, reaching for my hand, "I need to tell you something, before it is too late." "Dad, you are okay. The doctors have the infection under control." "No, you do not understand. I need to tell you everything. About Patricia, about the family. Things you need to know to protect yourself." And then, he told me the truth that changed everything. My father's voice was weak but steady as he spoke. And what he told me in that hospital room rewrote my entire understanding of my family. Patricia had not married him for love. She had been pregnant with Marcus when they met, abandoned by her wealthy fiancé when he found out about the baby. She needed financial security and respectability, and Robert had been convenient, kind, stable, with a decent job and no questions asked. He had fallen in love with her sophistication and beauty, never realizing he was just a solution to a problem. Robert had discovered the truth 5 years into their marriage, finding old letters hidden in a box in the attic. Letters from Patricia's ex-fiancé, letters that made the timeline clear. He had confronted Patricia, and she had admitted everything coldly, telling him that if he left her, she would make sure he never saw Marcus again. So he stayed, raising Marcus as his own, never telling anyone the truth. "Does Marcus know?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "No," Robert said, "and I do not think he should. It would destroy him. But Patricia has used it as a weapon against me for 30 years. Every time I tried to stand up to her, every time I suggested we treat you better, she would threaten to tell Marcus the truth and turn him against me. 2 years after Marcus, I was born. Robert had hoped a biological child might change Patricia, might soften her, but it had the opposite effect. She saw me as another burden, another reminder of the life she had settled for instead of the wealthy existence she felt she deserved. "She never wanted you, Bill," Robert said, tears streaming down his face. "And I hate myself for not protecting you from that. I watched her favor Marcus, watched her undermine you, and I did nothing. I convinced myself I was protecting Marcus, keeping the family together, but I was just protecting myself from her threats." Over the years, Robert had tried to help me in small ways. He had put my name on a savings account, adding money secretly when he could. He had bought stocks in my name, investments Patricia did not know about. He had put the family's lake cabin solely in my name 5 years ago, telling Patricia it was for tax purposes. All told, there were assets worth about $80,000 that Patricia could not touch, meant for me. "I wanted you to have something," he said, "something she could not take from you. I knew someday things would come to this, that Patricia would try to destroy anything good that happened to you. These assets are yours free and clear. Use them if you need to." A nurse came in to check his vitals, interrupting our conversation. While she worked, I sat processing everything I had learned. My brother was not my full brother. My mother had married for convenience, not love. My entire childhood had been shaped by secrets and manipulation. After the nurse left, Robert continued, "There is more you need to know. Patricia has been planning something for weeks. I overheard phone calls, saw papers she tried to hide. She knows about your success now, knows how much you are worth, and she wants to take it." Before he could explain further, there were voices in the hallway. Loud, angry voices. Then the door burst open, and Patricia stood there flanked by Marcus, Amanda, and 2 men in expensive suits carrying briefcases. Hospital security was behind them, looking uncertain. One of the attorneys stepped forward. "Mr. Robert Hayes, we are here on behalf of your wife, Patricia Hayes, to serve you with a petition for guardianship. Mrs. Hayes contends that you are not mentally competent to make decisions regarding your medical care or your finances. We have supporting documentation from a physician who evaluated you last week. Before the birthday dinner. Patricia had been planning this for a while." The attorney handed Robert a stack of papers. "This petition, if granted, would give your wife full legal authority over all your affairs. There will be a hearing in 3 days." I looked at my father, saw the fear and resignation in his eyes. He thought he was trapped, that Patricia had finally won, but she had not counted on one thing. I stood up slowly, pulling out my own phone. I had anticipated something like this, maybe not guardianship specifically, but some kind of legal maneuver, and I had prepared. "Gentlemen," I said calmly, "before you go any further, I suggest you check your facts." The attorney looked at me dismissively. "And you are?" "Bill Hayes, Robert's son, and his designated healthcare proxy and emergency contact. And as of yesterday morning, when I realized Patricia was building towards something like this, I arranged for a full geriatric psychiatric evaluation of my father." I pulled up an email on my phone and forwarded it to both attorneys. Dr. Richard Chen, one of the top geriatric psychiatrists in the state, conducted a comprehensive evaluation of Robert Hayes yesterday afternoon. His report shows my father is fully mentally competent, scoring in the 98th percentile on all cognitive assessments. There is absolutely no medical basis for a guardianship petition. The attorneys exchanged glances, clearly not expecting this. "Furthermore," I continued, "I have already filed a restraining order against Patricia Hayes for harassment, documented through hospital staff reports and security footage. That order was granted this morning by Judge Morrison. Patricia is not legally permitted to be within 100 feet of my father without his explicit consent." I turned to the hospital security officers. Please escort Mrs. Hayes from the premises immediately. Patricia's carefully composed mask finally shattered. She began screaming, her voice shrill and venomous, saying things I will not repeat. The hatred in her words was absolute. Years of resentment and cruelty finally unleashed without restraint. You have always been worthless, she shrieked at me. A mistake I never wanted. I told Robert to give you up for adoption. Did you know that? When I was pregnant with you, I begged him to let me leave you at the hospital. You ruined my life by being born. The entire hallway went silent. Even the attorneys looked shocked. I convinced Robert not to pay for your college, she continued, her face twisted with rage. I told him every day that you were wasting your life, that you would never amount to anything. I wanted you to fail and disappear from our lives. I wanted you gone. Marcus stood frozen, his face white. Amanda had started crying. From his hospital bed, Robert spoke, his voice quiet but firm. Get out, Patricia. I want a divorce, and I never want to see you again. Something flickered in Patricia's eyes then, something that looked almost like fear. She had lost. She knew it. Her carefully constructed world of status and control had crumbled in a single moment of unguarded honesty. The security officers escorted her out, her screams echoing down the hallway until they faded into silence. The attorneys apologized awkwardly and left, taking their guardianship petition with them. They knew it would never hold up in court now. Marcus approached the bed slowly. He looked at Robert, then at me, then back to Robert. Is it true? He asked, his voice barely audible. What she said about Bill, that she tried to get rid of him? Yes, Robert said. I am sorry you had to hear it that way, but yes. Every word was true. Marcus sat down heavily in a chair, putting his head in his hands. I helped her, he said. All these years, I helped her treat Bill like he was nothing. What have I done? Amanda was still crying, but she came to stand beside me. I am so sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. I did not know what to say. The anger I had carried for years was still there, but it was mixed with exhaustion and sadness. These were my siblings, damaged by the same woman who had tried to destroy me. They were victims too, in their own way. Robert held out his hand to Marcus. Son, what your mother did to Bill is not your fault. You were a child, raised in her shadow. But you have a choice now about who you want to be going forward. Marcus looked up, tears streaming down his face. I do not know how to fix this. I do not know how to make any of this right. You start, I said quietly, by being honest about everything, and by deciding what kind of person you want to be from now on. It was not forgiveness, not yet. But it was a door left open. 3 months had passed since that night in the hospital. 3 months of change that had reshaped everything. My father was living in a guest suite at the Grand Meridian, one of the larger rooms with a sitting area and a small kitchen. He had filed for divorce, and Patricia had left the state, moving in with a cousin in Florida. The divorce was proceeding, complicated by the fact that Patricia was refusing to cooperate with her attorneys, but it would be final soon. Robert looked younger now, healthier. He had started volunteering with a youth mentoring program, working with kids from difficult backgrounds. He told me that helping them process their family situations was helping him process his own failures. He was in therapy twice a week, working through decades of avoidance and fear. We had dinner together every Sunday in the hotel's private dining room, just the two of us at first. We talked about everything we had missed in 8 years. He told me stories about when I was young, moments I had forgotten, like how I had insisted on organizing my toy cars by color when I was 4, already showing signs of the systematic thinking that would serve me well in business, or how I had saved my allowance for 6 months, when I was 9 to buy a homeless man a winter coat, crying when the man hugged me and said thank you. You were always so determined, Robert said during one of these dinners. Always so sure about doing the right thing, even when it cost you. I should have protected that in you instead of letting your mother try to crush it. Marcus reached out 2 weeks after the hospital confrontation. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. He looked terrible, like he had not slept in days. I have been going to therapy, he told me, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup for warmth despite the spring weather, trying to work through everything. The therapist says I have been complicit in emotional abuse, and she is right. I convinced myself I was just going along to keep the peace, but really I was actively participating in making your life miserable. He told me he was going to leave his law firm, that the pressure and the dishonesty of the work had been eating him alive. He asked if my offer still stood, the one I had made at the hotel bar that night. I said yes. I gave Marcus a position as Director of Legal Affairs for Apex Hospitality Group. The salary was fair, not inflated, about $120,000 a year. It was enough for him to pay his bills, start addressing his debt, and rebuild his life with dignity. He would earn any advancement through actual work, not through family connections. Marcus moved into a modest apartment and filed for divorce from Sarah, who had apparently been waiting for him to finally make a decision. He told me that ending his marriage was the hardest thing he had ever done, but also the most honest. I have been living a lie for so long, he said. Pretending to be successful, pretending to be happy, pretending to be the person Mom wanted me to be. I do not even know who I actually am yet, but I am trying to find out. He was good at his job, I discovered. When he was not drowning under impossible expectations and financial pressure, Marcus was actually a talented attorney with strong attention to detail. He reviewed contracts thoroughly, caught potential problems before they became issues, and negotiated with intelligence and integrity. My staff respected him, and he treated them with genuine kindness. We were not close, not yet, but we were building something real, something based on honesty instead of our mother's manipulation. Some weeks we got coffee together. Sometimes we worked side by side without much conversation. It was enough. Amanda left her husband 6 weeks after the hospital incident. She moved into a suite at the Grand Meridian, and I told her she could stay as long as she needed while she figured out her next steps. Her husband had been surprisingly understanding, admitting that he had known for years their marriage was hollow. They were working toward an amicable divorce, dividing assets fairly. Amanda enrolled in community college to finish the degree she had abandoned when Patricia pressured her to marry instead. She was studying social work, wanting to help families navigate dysfunction and trauma. She said that understanding her own family's brokenness made her want to help others heal. I spent so much of my life performing, she told me one evening as we walked through the hotel gardens, being the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, always saying the right thing and wearing the right clothes. And I was so empty inside, Bill. So completely empty. I do not want to live like that anymore. I helped her financially, not as charity but as family support. I paid her tuition, helped her find a good therapist, made sure she had what she needed to rebuild. She worked part-time at the hotel's front desk, insisting she wanted to earn her own money and learn the business from the ground up. If this is what you built by working hard and treating people right, she said, then I want to learn how to do that too. Amanda and I grew closer than we had ever been as children. We shared stories about Patricia's manipulation, comparing experiences and realizing how thoroughly she had controlled both our lives. We cried together, laughed together, and slowly built the sibling relationship we should have had all along. My business was thriving. Apex Hospitality Group now owned 7 properties across 3 states, employing over 300 people. But I had changed how I ran things, influenced by my father's stories about his own crushed dreams. I created an education scholarship program for employees, covering tuition for anyone who wanted to go back to school or learn new skills. I promoted from within whenever possible, giving opportunities to people who started in entry-level positions like I had. I paid above market wages and offered benefits that actually helped people build stable lives. One of my housekeepers, a single mother named Maria who had been working night shifts while taking online classes, was now my director of operations at the newest property. She had a degree in business management and a work ethic that reminded me of myself at 23. When I promoted her, she cried in my office and told me no one had ever believed in her before. "You gave me a chance when I had nothing," she said. "I will never forget that. You earned it," I told her. "I just gave you the opportunity. You did the work." That became my philosophy. Create opportunities, remove barriers, and let people show what they are capable of when given a real chance. On a Sunday evening in late June, I hosted my father's 61st birthday dinner, exactly 1 year after the catastrophic 60th birthday that had blown our family apart. This time, the guest list was different. Just the four of us sat in the same private dining room. Me, Robert, Marcus, and Amanda. The table was set simply, elegant but not ostentatious. We ordered food we actually wanted to eat, instead of items chosen to impress. The conversation was real. We laughed about awkward moments from the past 3 months, like when Marcus had accidentally sent a contract to the wrong client and had to do damage control, or when Amanda had mixed up room reservations and accidentally double-booked a wedding party. We were learning to be human with each other, to share mistakes instead of hiding them. Toward the end of the meal, Robert stood up to make a toast. He held his wine glass with steady hands, looking at each of us in turn. 1 year ago tonight, he said, our family fell apart. And that was the best thing that could have happened to us, because we were not really a family before that. We were people living in proximity, controlled by fear and manipulation, performing roles instead of being honest. He looked at me, and his eyes were bright with emotion. Bill, you did not just build a business. You built a family. You showed us what real love actually looks like, not the conditional approval your mother offered, but genuine care and support. You had every reason to walk away from all of us, to say we did not deserve your forgiveness. But you gave us a chance to be better people. His voice broke slightly. You are the best thing I ever did with my life, son. And I am so grateful I finally had the courage to tell you that. I felt tears on my own cheeks. I learned from you, Dad. You never gave up on me, even in silence. Knowing you were proud, even when you could not say it, that is what kept me going. We raised our glasses together, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace, belonging, the sense that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. After dinner, Derek knocked on the door and entered briefly. Mr. Hayes, I am sorry to interrupt, but Jessica from housekeeping is looking for you. She wants to know if the education scholarship program is really available to her. Jessica was a young woman, maybe 22, who worked the night shift while taking care of her daughter during the day. She was trying to get through nursing school but struggling with the costs. I had announced the scholarship program 2 weeks ago, but I knew people were skeptical. Programs like that did not usually apply to people like them. I smiled. Tell her it is absolutely real, and tell her to come by my office tomorrow morning. I want to talk to her about her nursing program and make sure we get her enrolled in all the classes she needs. Derek nodded and left. When I turned back to the table, Amanda was looking at me with something like awe. You are changing lives, Bill, she said softly. I shook my head. I am just doing what I wished someone had done for me. When you are working 3 jobs and barely sleeping, and everyone tells you that your dreams are impossible, you just need one person to believe in you. One person to give you a real chance. I am just trying to be that person for others. Marcus spoke up, his voice thoughtful. You know what I realized? All those years when I thought I was better than you, more successful, more important, I was miserable. I hated my life. But you were actually happy, even when you were struggling. You had purpose. You were building something meaningful. I was not always happy, I admitted. There were a lot of nights when I wondered if I was just fooling myself. When I lay awake in that storage room at my first hotel, listening to pipes rattle and wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. But I believed the struggle had meaning. That is the difference. Robert reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for showing us there was another way to live. We sat together as the sun set outside the windows, the city lights beginning to glow in the distance. We were not a perfect family. We still had work to do, conversations to have, healing to pursue. But we were real now, honest with each other in a way we had never been before. Later, after Marcus and Amanda had left and I was walking my father back to his suite, he stopped me in the hallway. You know what I am most proud of? He asked. What? That you are nothing like me. You have the courage I never had, the integrity I compromised, the love I was too afraid to show. You broke the cycle, Bill. You became the man I should have been. I hugged him, and he hugged me back tightly. You are becoming that man now, Dad. That is what matters. In my office later that night, I sat looking at the photographs on my desk. There were pictures of all 7 hotels in our group, images of staff members who had been promoted, letters from guests whose lives had been touched by their stays. There was a picture of my father and me at his birthday dinner, both of us smiling genuinely. I thought about the life lesson in all of this, the truth I had learned through years of pain and rejection and ultimate triumph. Real family is not determined by blood. It is not about who shares your DNA or your last name. It is about who stands beside you when everything falls apart, who believes in you when you have nothing to prove your worth except determination, who chooses to love you not because they have to, but because they see value in who you actually are. Success means nothing if you build it to prove others wrong. I had spent years working hard, yes, but part of me was always trying to show my mother and Marcus and Amanda that they had been wrong about me. The money and the properties and the status. They felt hollow when the motivation was revenge or vindication. But when success becomes about lifting others up, about creating opportunities for people who remind you of your younger self, that is when it has real meaning. That is when you wake up feeling purpose instead of emptiness. Sometimes the cruelest rejection becomes the greatest gift. If my mother had supported me, if Marcus had been kind, if my family had welcomed me into their world of status and appearances, I might have become like them. I might have taken the easy path, settled for comfort, lost the drive that made me who I am. Their rejection forced me to build my own way, to discover my own strength, to create something real instead of inheriting something hollow. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is one of the hardest things you will ever do, requiring more strength than holding on to anger. When I chose to give Marcus and Amanda a chance to change, when I chose to reconnect with my father despite his years of silence, I was not being weak. I was being strong enough to let go of pain and build something new. And finally, the people who doubted you do not deserve your anger. They do not deserve your energy or your attention. Patricia was living somewhere in Florida now, angry and alone, having lost everything she tried so hard to control. I did not waste time hating her or seeking revenge. I simply moved forward, building a life so full of genuine connection and purpose that she became irrelevant. Real wealth is not measured in properties owned or dollars earned. It is measured in authentic relationships, in peace of mind, in the ability to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of who you see. I had built financial success, yes, but my real achievement was building a family based on honesty, a business based on integrity, and a life based on values that could not be shaken by external approval or disapproval. I turned off my office light and walked through the quiet hotel. Night staff greeted me warmly as I passed. In the lobby, I saw Jessica talking to the night manager, probably asking about the scholarship. Tomorrow I would sit down with her and help her plan her path to becoming a nurse. Next week, I had meetings with 3 other employees who wanted to go back to school. This was the life I had built. Not perfect, but real. Not without pain, but full of meaning. And for the first time in 31 years, I felt completely at peace with who I was and what I had become. Before I leave you tonight, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt rejected by the people who were supposed to support you? Have you ever been told your dreams were impossible, that you were wasting your time, that you would never amount to anything? What did you do with that rejection? Did it stop you, or did it fuel you to prove them wrong? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Share your experiences, your struggles, your triumphs. Let us build a community of people who refuse to let others define their worth. And if this story meant something to you, if it touched your heart or gave you hope, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their struggle has meaning, that their determination matters, that they are worth more than others have told them. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this journey. I wish you the courage to build the life you deserve, the strength to forgive those who doubted you, and the wisdom to measure your worth by your own values instead of others' opinions. You are capable of more than you know. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise.